First things first, yes, there's paint on my nail. I know, don't worry about it. So as you know, I've had a few of my own parts made that I've designed. I've had a few parts that I have taken somebody else's design with their permission and gone, can we modify this and make something else? They've gone, yep. Well, I've done that again. I listen to what people say and feedback that I get, and some people want things that I also want. I would love my own sets of gears made in a very particular way. I got so far with that, and although my design worked, but I definitely couldn't trust the average Joe to fit one without breaking something, because they'd inevitably blame the part, not their own skills. And it was going to be rather fussy, so yeah, the gears have gone to the side for a moment, basically. One thing that was noted was motor towers. People have commented that they want the fattest motor towers possible. And I have said, you sure? Like, are you really sure? Every gearbox casing is going to have a different aperture in the bottom. This particular one has quite a small aperture. If I measure the inside of it, I get 10.1. Now 10.1 means that you can get any motor tower in there that you really want. This is a double bell. They're a damn fine casing, and double bell did something that's very interesting. This is the double bell motor tower. It's interesting because when the tower goes in, it can only go to that depth. And as you can see, it's a hell of a snug fit. And that means that the entire of this motor tower cannot go so deep that you are mangling your gears. That's good. It also means, because they've done this themselves, there is very little play. Very little play. If I were to measure the outside of that, 9.7. Why didn't I do 9.7 on this one? Because this one is 9.4. If you go with the standard warhead, and this is the general average size, 8.9. If I grab another motor tower, these are 3 randoms. Don't ask me what they're from, because I don't know. 9.2. 8.8 on that one. 8.7 on that one. 8.8 on that one. So you can see the warhead tower is very slightly wider than some other towers you may come across. It's also thinner than some other towers you may come across. Now the downside of this tower is that it only fits this gearbox casing because of the length of this part here. When I've tried this motor tower in other things, because I like this design where you can't go too tight, that's really cool. I like that. But it also means you have to change your spring, because the spring that comes on these is conical. So it sits right there, and as it goes over to the bottom, a normal spring is not conical. A normal spring is just like that. And everyone's got their own way of doing their springs. You can make the springs fit basically anything. I do prefer this kind, because it means that if the wires have to sit in a very particular place, at the bottom of your pistol grip, the conical type might be pressing on them. So I prefer this type. You can see how nice and tight that is on there. Yeah? If I get this one, the spring doesn't hold. If I take this one, the spring doesn't hold, spring doesn't hold, spring doesn't hold. This one, spring does hold. So there's an upside. It does hold a little bit. That can all fuck off now. This is my one. It holds, and it holds tight. That means that when you are putting your motor into your pistol grip, the spring doesn't fall out. That is the tiniest little thing, but it's something that I get really arsey about. So that's one of the things I've done to make this super awesome. The next thing, as you saw, 9.4. I think it's more like 9.45. At the moment, These are just coming with the best quality Chinese bearings that I can get my hands on. But I will also have these available with EZOs, and it will definitely put the price up because an EZO bearing is 20 times the price of one of these, and this needs 2. Why has it got 2? That doesn't have 2. 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 If you've got 2, and I'm only using a warhead motor as an example because there's already no motor tower on there. Every other motor type I've got comes with the motor tower and pinion attached. I'm not going to start fucking with things for no reason. That goes on like that. Easy peasy. And now you've got a lot more stability. If I were to take this one here and put it on here, I can move it. When it's on here, there's still a little bit of movement, not as much, but there is still movement. There is movement here. If you have movement, there is a chance that you can blow up bearings, you can damage your shaft, you can strip your gears. In most builds, probably be fine if you're doing an alright job, it'd be alright. But in a lot of high stress builds, you might not want to do that. Depends on your country, depends on your build. So if I go with one of these, as you can see, no movement. It is twice as straight. And that can freely spin. That gives you more options, because if that can freely spin easier, if you want to, if the fancy grabs you, you can add shims underneath here. Get out my Gentleman Jack 0.3s. This is stuff that anal retented fuckwits like me do, because this is what we like. There are a few people who are rather anal retentive. Let's just wham a whole load on here just to save some fucking time, shall we? When that is shimmed, it can spin. These are little things that I do to make sure that when I'm doing a build for somebody, there's the least amount of resistance. Very often I don't need to do that. Depends on the motor, depends on the tower. It depends. In this case, I'm going to, because it also shows a purpose. So now I've shimmed that to there. That means there's going to be no scratching to the top of your motor. Next, normally I'd use a 0.1 shim, again if I needed to. I wham that on there, and then with my pinion on, I can see if it's standing up a bit too tall. In this case, it's perfectly flush. Obviously, I'm taking this off, so I'm not thread locking it. Normally you'd thread lock it, it's what you do. And so now, that is free to spin. Look at that. And it is literally silent. Cool, right? So now I've got less movement inside here. Yes, I could have gone a little bit fatter with the tower. I totally could have gone a little bit fatter with the tower, but I didn't because KWA and GMP exist. And I've had too many of those where you go to install, let's say, a warhead motor or another aftermarket motor, and the pinion that's supplied doesn't fit in the hole in the bottom of a KWA gearbox, and you go, oh shit. Also, things to think about. Right now, that is sitting nicely, and it's sitting nice and straight, because I've previously shimmed this gearbox. What happens if this has to go in at a different angle? Example the first. You'll see this in a video at some point. I've not made a video yet, but you will do. With this pistol grip, this doesn't sit at the same depth as a normal pistol grip because of the length of it. And it also doesn't fit at the same angle because of the angle of this grip. If I grab out an MOE style and I line her up, you'll see that this is pointing backwards more. See that? So this motor is not going to go in at that angle, it's got to go in at this angle. And yes, there are solutions. I was talking to Will about this. And the solution is that what I would do, what he would do, we discussed it, it's something we've done many times. When you've got to try and fit a particular motor pistol grip's been supplied, you might have to you might want to take a little bit of material from the front bottom of this one, or the back top of this one, or the front top and the back bottom. Just so that goes in at a better angle. And again, this is why certain grips, I just don't like them. Because yes, they work, it doesn't give you the perfect fitment. You have to modify things to make it work properly. A lot of times, once you've made that modification, you can't unfuck it. If I make that motor tower too big, and that's 3 reasons why I didn't make this 9.9. Because no pistol grip is the same, no gearbox is the same, and the ease of use. If I put something out there that is so perfect, and let's talk about the Max Hop unit, it's so precision made that it's either going to work or it isn't. And you can make it work in basically anything, but the amount of modification and adjustment you've got to do is just not worth it. The product is so precise, it's a pain in the fucking arse. And I'm not going to release a product that I think is a pain in the arse. Now, I'm toying with the idea of having some of these made up that are fatter, but in lesser quantity. But also possibly sleeves to fit over these as well. You never know, but right now this is what I feel is the best average between the fattest that you really want to have on a standard unit so that it can fit as many products as possible. I don't want to go any bigger than what it is because I will appeal to less people, and there's no point having these made if you don't make any money on it. That's why it's being done. So, the final thing, obviously it's green and it's got negative on it because I'm fucking awesome. You can see those measurement increments. So that means when you get your gearbox going, you start figuring out where you're going to shim it to. If I smack this gear directly on top of here like that, I can go, right, that's basically where it's going to sit, that's great. I can do a little bit of looking and go, yep, I reckon that is the 3rd line from the top. That way when it comes to shimming on the inside, I can go 1, 2, 3. And it gives me a good depth gauge. I know, it's such a simple thing, but no one else has done it. It's crazy, isn't it? It takes the stupid English man who swears on YouTube to come up with something so fucking simple. You know? This should make your life a lot easier. So, in the coming weeks, I will have fucking oodles of these. Some will be for sale, some will be for my builds, but there you are. Go buy my shit. And yes, these are going to be back in stock very, very shortly. Hopefully, I was hoping today, it might be tomorrow or Monday, these will be back in stock. Also, no rebranding for me. I fucking design shit because I have a massive flapping wang.